Hashtag no days off. Should you train every single day? It's a good question, and I've got a perspective on it now that's informed by coming back from my 1,000-mile solo canoe trip, hence the mustache. This is the remnant of the beard that I grew while I was out in the bush doing this 1,000-mile trek from Missinippi, Saskatchewan, up through various rivers, various lakes, down to the Fleur Louisa, down to Hudson Bay. If you go to grappelarts.com/solo, you can read all about it. But on that 42-day trip, I had it planned for 50. On that 42-day trip, I took 1 day off. And I took a couple of half days off. Now, this wasn't necessarily by choice. Those days off were determined by the wind. There were days that the wind was so strong that you absolutely could not make headway. If I'd paddled out, and I did actually, and tried to make progress across very small bodies of water, it would have been like paddling on a treadmill. As hard as I could paddle would have equaled the full force of the wind, would have equaled staying right there for as long as I paddled. So clearly that was not a viable option. But there weren't many days off. 1 full day off in 42 days of effort, that's not a lot of time to rest. So the question is, if you're trying for something else, if you're trying to get your black belt in a martial art, but this also applies to starting your own business. It also applies to getting your degree. It also applies to getting straight A's. It also applies to getting a down payment on a house. It applies to getting your black belt in a martial art. Should you take days off? So my traditional answer to this has always been some is better than none. If all you can do is train 1 day a week, that is infinitely better than training 0 days a week. At 0 days a week, you will not get better. At 1 day a week, you will get a little bit better. Trouble is, you're going to get 1 unit better. And then in the next week, you're going to lose some of that improvement. You're just not going to remember everything. So now you come back, you're not 1 unit better anymore. You're 0.25 units better. And then you got to learn another unit of information. But then by the time the next week comes around, you've already forgotten some of that. So it's 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. The more often you train, the less of that backsliding there'll be. So some is better than none. Training 1 day a week is 1,000,000 times better than training no days a week. But let's say you're really serious. Let's say you've got an MMA fight. You want to do an MMA fight. Or you're getting ready for a tournament. Or you're just super crazy in love with jiu-jitsu. And you want to improve your jiu-jitsu skills. Should you be taking days off? The answer, really, if you take a look at the various competitors out there, it's not very many. Don't take very many days off. In fact, I'll make an argument you should take no days off with a great big caveat. Back to the trip. On the trip, my goal was to get through it as fast as possible. In part because I had picked kind of the maximum distance that I could achieve in the 50 days of food that I could carry and the 50 days of time I had available. Got it done in faster than 50 days, but I needed that buffer. If I'd gotten sick, if I'd gotten injured, if a storm had come in and pinned me for an additional week, well, you need that buffer of food to survive, to not starve. So, or to recover from the illness, or to recover from the injury, or just to deal with unexpected circumstances. So anyhow, I picked kind of the maximum distance that I had any reasonable chance of accomplishing in that time. There really was no time to take off. There was an extreme pressure. It was just like there's an MMA fight 2 months from now, or a jiu-jitsu competition 6 weeks from now. You better put most of your focus on that. So on the trip, I would paddle. If I could paddle and sail, I would paddle and sail. But if the wind was going the wrong way or the current was going the wrong way, because much of this trip was going upriver, climbing up rapids, going the wrong way to get to the various heights of land to cross over into the next watershed. If I couldn't paddle, if I couldn't sail, I would get out and drag my boat physically. I would use ropes to track upriver. I would portage upriver. I'd drag the boat through the forest. It wouldn't be as fast as paddling, certainly not as fast as paddling plus sailing, but I'd be making some progress. A little bit of progress every day, and it builds up. The damn boat isn't going to paddle itself. So now when it comes to getting better at martial arts, should you be pushing yourself every day? The answer is basically yes. You should try to get to a place where you can train reasonably hard every day. And we take a look at the top competitors. Many of them are training twice a day. Now this is muddied by the fact that many of the top competitors are cranking a fair amount of steroids. They can also don't have jobs, so they can sleep 10 hours a night and take a nap. I get it. Not everyone is cranking steroids. Certainly I'm not. And ability to sleep, well, on that trip, I was sleeping maybe 5 to 7 hours a night. I was sleeping terribly. And the constraints of paddling till it got dark and then getting up shortly after the sun came up meant that there wasn't a whole lot of time for sleep. And that certainly took its toll on me. But here's the point. If you're training almost every day, eventually you're not going to be able to. Training jiu-jitsu, training a hardcore martial art is hard on the body. There are going to be days when you just absolutely can't train. Life happens, your dog needs an ACL replaced or whatever it is that comes along in your life that seems pretty important to you that you need to fix and you won't be able to train, but you can still get better. It's not so much no days off from training. It's no days off from improvement. If you can't train, what else can you do that day to get better? If I couldn't paddle, well, maybe I could drag my boat. If I couldn't drag my boat, maybe I could track my boat using ropes. If I couldn't track my rope, maybe I could portage. If I was absolutely pinned and couldn't do anything, maybe I could go through my maps. Maybe I could fix gear. Maybe I could figure out how to optimize the next day. Figure out what would set me up for success the next day. On a couple of those days, that meant getting as much sleep as I could to catch up on the sleep that I was missing and eat as much food as I could just to try and replenish the body and stop my weight, which was going down. I lost 15 pounds over that trip. That was hard on the body. So if I couldn't actually travel on that day or that morning or that evening, what else could I do to set me up for success the next day? You got to think of your training the same way. If you can't train that day because you've got the flu, what else can you do to set yourself up for success? Number one, get better from the flu. But you know what? Maybe you can watch some tape. Maybe you can study some techniques. Maybe you can do some rehab. I'm sure you've got injuries. If you've been training long and hard, you will have residual injuries in your body. Maybe you can go see a physiotherapist and find out what to do about that elbow. Maybe you can go see a sports medicine doctor and find out what to do about that shoulder. Maybe you can go see some kind of movement specialist or chiropractor and find out what to do about your back. There's probably something that you can do even if you can't physically train. So that no days off, that's true. If you're going for a big, audacious goal, if you're going to start your own business, which is hard, if you're trying to get your degree, which is hard, if you're trying to get straight A's in school, which is hard, if you're trying to get your jiu-jitsu black belt, which is hard, if you're trying to do, in my case, 1,000-mile solo canoe trip by yourself through the Arctic, upriver and against the wind for much of the trip, that's hard. There is really no days off. Even the days off are getting ready for the next day. Even the days off, maybe there's something else you can do. Maybe, in my case, I can glue or tape my maps back together, which had kind of fallen apart thanks to getting soaked very early in the trip. Maybe I can take my barrel arm apart and fix it because it's not spooling properly, and that barrel arm I'm going to rely on when I get into polar bear country. Maybe I can try fixing my paddle, which had snapped. Maybe I can sleep. Maybe I can eat. Maybe there's something I can do that day to set me up for success the next day. So, some training is better than no training. I don't want to make this binary for you. I don't want to say if you're not training 7 days a week, you're a wuss, give up the sport. That's not at all true. Some is better than none. But if you're going for a big, hairy, audacious goal, if you've got big plans and big goals, and you don't want to be one of these people whose mouth runs, but they're not doing the hard work. If you want your actions to map with your stated goals, your aspirations, then there really is no days off. The days that you're not on the mat, you should be watching YouTube. You should be watching instructionals. You should be trying to set up, how do I get sponsorships so that I can fly and go train with this guy and work on my butterfly guard, train with this guy and work on my pressure passing, go and train with this guy and improve my heel hooks, right? Even figuring out the logistics of that is still training. I'm going to close. One of my favorite new books that I'm reading is called Potomac Habits. And it covers and expresses much better than I can many of my most important, most cherished beliefs. And the author points out that a 1% improvement every day is a huge cumulative effect over a year. Basically, 1.01 is how much better you are the next day, right? If I'm at level 1 today and I improve by 1%, the next day I'm at 1.01. If you put that to the power of 365, if you improve by 1% each day, 365 days in a row, you're going to be 3,700% better than you were at the beginning of the year. 37 times better. It's a tiny little effect. You're not going to see it day to day. It's like losing weight. If I went on a diet yesterday and I'm still fat today. Well, yes, that's true. You're missing the point. It's not the effect from day to day. It's the effect of week to week, month to month, and especially over the years, right? If you can maintain a 37-fold improvement over a 1-year span, then think of 10 years down the road. You'll be a super high-level black belt, starting at absolute white belt level. But in canoeing terms, the damn boat isn't going to paddle itself. Your skills aren't going to get better on their own. Yes, your instructors can help you. Yes, all the videos you watch can help you, but you got to go and you got to train. You got to watch the tape. You got to watch the instructionals, and you got to think about this, and you got to figure out the logistics of training. You got to figure out rehab and rest and recuperation and going to see specialists. That's all part of it. So yes, no days off if you're serious about your martial art. Most of those days are going to be hard training. But even the days that aren't hard training, you got something to do that can make you better.